This is In Dark Places. Snap, crackle, pop. Well, it's almost Thanksgiving here in America, and I used to love Thanksgiving. It was one of my favorite holidays, eating all that food and stuff. But now, working in the grocery store, like for the past 20 years, I really hate Thanksgiving now. We have to work twice as hard and make the same amount of money. And it's just a really stressful time of year. We always have rude customers yelling at us and stuff like that. And, I don't like Thanksgiving anymore because of all that nonsense in retail stores. And, my favorite thing, not really, at work is, people wanting a certain weight on their turkey. They'll have a 19-pound turkey that they find out in our case, and they come and they ring our little meat department doorbell thing, and they'll say, yeah, I've got a turkey here that's 19 pounds. Do you have one that's about 20 pounds? Because that 1 pound is going to make all the difference in the world. You can make 2 more sandwiches with that 1 more pound. So yeah, it's really important. You got to have one that's 20 pounds. And stuff like that just kills me. I don't get people at all. One year there was a lady that came in the store, and she had a ham, a big old bone-in, semi-boneless ham that was 13 pounds. Now, I've worked at this store for 20 years, as previously mentioned, and I know the sizes of those hams. I've been weighing them all these years, and they're always right around 12 or 13 pounds. This lady came to the door and rang the bell. She said, yeah, can you get me a ham like this 18 pounds? And I said, no, man, we don't have one that big. And she got all mad at me and stuff. She said, you're not even going to look, are you? And I said, no, I'm not going to look because I know we don't have one that big. And she was all mad and stuff. So, yeah, that was a fun day, too.
Though the paint is cracked.
This is Mr. Haunted with this week's Cryptid Corner. Today we're talking about the Ohio Grassman, also known as the Minerva Monster. The Grassman is said to be a cryptid creature greatly resembling Bigfoot. Some suggest it is a subspecies of a broader Bigfoot species, while others say it's just Ohio's one and only Bigfoot creature. There have been many reports of its appearance. Many describe it as 5 to 10 feet tall, varying from 300 to 1,000 pounds, having a heavy odor, long black hair, and bright orange eyes. While there isn't much that differentiates it from Bigfoot, it also earned the specific name Grassman from the large dens it supposedly makes out of its grass and from its diet, which reportedly consists mainly of tall grass from Ohio fields. Perhaps the most famous encounter with the Grassman in Minerva, Ohio, was a series of events that inspired multiple documentaries and online articles. According to legend, in 1978, the Caton family was terrorized by an unknown creature. The Cryptid Wiki describes how the grandchildren of Evelyn and Howe Caton ran into their home screaming about a monster they had seen outside. Going out to investigate, Evelyn and Howe saw what the children had described. They claimed to have seen a giant hair-covered beast around 7 feet tall and 300 pounds by a gravel pit pawing through some trash. Upon seeing the beast, the Caton family fled their home. This wasn't the last time they'd encounter orange eyes, which the Grassman is also nicknamed in the area. They were to have multiple encounters with it. If the stories are to be believed, it would essentially stalk them in their home, looking at them through their kitchen window and from nearby hills. Police at this point were also involved in the investigation, and many didn't think it was a hoax, witnessing a lot of the events themselves. Most interestingly, in some later encounters, it was said that the witnesses saw multiple Grassmen simultaneously of varying sizes, supposedly confirming there was more than one Grassman, and that it could be deemed a social species. These encounters attract mass media attention and spawned multiple articles and myths surrounding the Grassman. According to an article written by Ed Balin, a Canton Repository staff writer, the Caton family was bombarded with attention following the event. In the article, Herbert Caton recalled, "One day there were 100 to 150 cars in my driveway, on the lawn, and lining both sides of the road. This attention made the family shy away from further publicity related to the Grassman." Regardless, Evelyn and Hal Caton, now deceased, stuck to their story, and others still living who claim to have witnessed the early encounters haven't altered their accounts either.
The green grass.
And that's this week's Cryptid Corner, the Ohio Grassman.
Come to see me.
Thanks, Jimmy. Ohio Grassman. I gotta go looking for that guy one day. And now here's the Nicolas Cage meltdown of the week.
We're all gonna die! Stay where you are, I'll be right there!
No, if we go to the caves, we have a chance. You said the sun can't reach that far.
The caves won't save us! Nothing can! The radiation will penetrate a mile into the Earth's crust, do you hear me? Our only shot is to go where the numbers want us to go! It's what we're meant to do!
I don't believe you. I'm taking the children. We have to save the children.
Don't you move, Diana! Caleb is my son!
Hey, Nicolas Cage, he kind of hit right on the money there with Conspiracies. It's been a while. I was talking with our friend Steve about weather manipulation. He was talking about how it's like they almost have like a switch. They can turn the weather on and off, like it'll be hot one day and cold the next. So yeah, weather modification. That's what's in the news this week. This story is about a month old, but I'm just now seeing it, so I'm going to read it now. HAARP to begin largest set of experiments at its new observatory by Rod Boyce. This was on October 17th. Bouncing a signal off the moon, learning more about a mysterious polar light, sending a beam to Jupiter. Those are just some of the 13 experiments for a packed 10 days of science beginning Wednesday at the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. The University of Alaska Fairbanks operates the facility located near Gokona. The number of experiments is the highest so far under a 5-year, $9.3 million grant awarded last year by the National Science Foundation to establish the Subaurora Geophysical Observatory at HAARP. The observatory's purpose is the exploration of Earth's upper atmosphere and geospace environment, or so they want you to believe. The October research campaign is our largest and most diverse to date, with researchers and citizen scientists collaborating from across the globe, said Jessica Matthews, HAARP's program manager. The 10 days of operation includes researchers and others. Among the experiments is the moon bounce. The purpose is to test the coordination of the three facilities for the eventual study of near-Earth asteroids, especially those that can be a hazard to Earth. Knowing an asteroid's composition can influence the type of defense to be used. The experiment consists of transmitting a signal from HAARP to the moon and receiving the reflected signal at the California and New Mexico sites. The Jupiter experiment, run by Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, aims to prove a method of observing planetary ionospheres by using Earth-based radio transmitters. Scientists have little information about the ionospheres of planets other than Earth, but believe them to be rich with information. On Earth, the ionosphere is a place within the upper atmosphere, extending to the interface with space that is filled with particles that become electrically charged from interaction with the sun's energy. The experiment will send a beam to Jupiter and bounce it off the giant planet's ionosphere with the hope that it will be received at the New Mexico site. I just now found the article and decided to read it, but, it's a month ago and nothing good is bound to come from that. For those of you not in the know, HAARP is known to manipulate the weather. They just cover it up all the time, saying that they're just studying the ionosphere and all that nonsense, and when actually they're producing weird weather things and wildfires and earthquakes and you name it, they can pretty much do it all from HAARP. And truth be known, they're probably a bunch of crazy people. And while we're on the topic of weather manipulation, hey, how about them chemtrails? Some people theorize that HAARP can interact with the chemtrails on the airplanes and create weird weather phenomenon. Myself, I don't know what chemtrails are. I just know that they weren't there when I was a kid. Geoengineeringwatch.org has been investigating the chemtrails for years, and they have scientifically found proof of aluminum, barium, strontium deposits all found in the sky from samples collected. This kind of junk is also common in soil samples all over the world. Aluminum, barium, and strontium. I'm recording this on November 14th, and when I went to lunch today, there was this weird spiderweb looking thing on my car door. And some people believe that chemtrails leave little strings of fibers in trees and things like that, just like spiderwebs. But this stuff has been seen falling from the sky. These fibers are white and extremely sticky, unbelievably sticky, and they're extremely long and strong. Kind of like a piece of fishing line. I used to have a YouTube channel called West Virginia Chemtrail Tracker. The channel existed from 2015 until 2019, and it was kind of like an early version of this podcast. I was thinking about how the sky was almost always blue when I was a kid. And you would see these big, white, fluffy clouds, and you hardly ever see a blue sky day now. And when you see clouds, they're not white and fluffy. They're just kind of spindly looking, weird shapes and stuff in the sky. So I decided I was going to count the days of the month and see how many days there would be a blue sky. And then that led to a yearly study for the year and for the next few years. In 2019, YouTube started putting this little disclaimer on my videos talking about contrails and how they're normal little water vapors that just follow with the jets and they're nothing to be afraid of. Unless they have aluminum and barium and strontium in them. And they last forever and they leave little rainbow weird things in the sky. That stuff's not normal. I went to a Pearl Jam concert in Charlottesville, Virginia, back in 2013. And Charlottesville had the most chemtrails I've ever seen in my life. Just covered in the sky. But I got kind of annoyed with YouTube putting that in all my videos, and I finally ended the channel in 2019. And then the world kind of ended then in 2020. Weird timing. So you know how there's 365 days in a year? You've heard of that before? In 2015, there were 8 days out of that 365 days where there was a clear blue sky over West Virginia. And then there were 153 days the sky was just all milky gray covered with crap. And of the 365 days of that year, I saw 200 days of chemtrails. 2016, there were 14 days of blue sky out of the 365 days. 212 days of chemtrail spraying. In 2017, I saw 3 days in the whole year with a clear blue sky, and 192 days of chemtrails. In 2018, I saw 9 days of clear blue skies, and 192 days of chemtrails. In 2019, I saw 9 days of clear blue skies and 189 days of chemtrails. And by 2019, I was getting kind of fed up with YouTube's censorship stuff, and I quit keeping track of all that. So I can't tell you exactly how many days there were chemtrails after 2019, but I did notice that when the world ended in 2020 and there were like no one allowed to be flying and stuff, and like all the ground traffic as well, like cars and stuff. You didn't see many people out traveling and stuff. But chemtrails did not stop. I want to say there was like maybe 10 days of clear blue skies in 2020. And that was like supposedly when there were no flying. Kinda weird. And here's a little clip of one of my videos that I did back in 2015. I've been looking at the sky every day of my life since I was 6 years old. My parents took me to the theater to see E.T. in June of 1982, and I've been looking for UFOs ever since. I didn't get to see a UFO until July of 1992. Since that day I've seen hundreds more, but that's a different story for a different video. My first love as a child was trains. I didn't start noticing planes until I was about 6 or 7 years old. I would see contrails. They always disappeared after a few seconds. In my mind, I would identify those contrails as being like coaches on passenger trains. I thought contrails were where the passengers were riding on the jets, like the jets were pulling them along. I looked at every jet as I was outside playing, and there was never a time when a jet was pulling coaches that were over 100 miles long. There were no chemtrails. The first time I ever heard of chemtrails was back around 1999 on the old Art Bell show. People were calling in from various states on the West Coast and talking about seeing chemtrails. I had never seen one here in West Virginia, so for whatever reason the chemtrail project seemed to be focused on the West Coast in the beginning. I don't remember the first time I saw a chemtrail over West Virginia, but it was several years later, possibly around 2005. But now hardly a day goes by when I don't see a chemtrail. Ufology is how I stumbled into studying chemtrails. It bothered me that I could no longer see the sky to look for UFOs because chemtrails were forming huge gray blankets over the sky. For a while I thought that was the sole purpose of chemtrails, to hide UFOs from the public. I've been researching chemtrails for the last 4 or 5 years, and now I think that their motives are much more sinister. I don't know if they're trying to manipulate the weather or if they're just trying to thin down the population or whatever they're doing. I'm sure there's no good purpose for chemtrails. I've heard all types of different explanations for why chemtrails can't be real. People say there are more jets in the sky now. They say that the jets are at different altitudes, so the air temperatures are different, which causes some jets to leave contrails while others leave chemtrails. I see jets all the time at the exact same altitude flying in the exact same direction. And one leaves a contrail and one leaves a chemtrail. How do they explain that? So I kind of felt defeated after 2019. I wasn't getting through to enough people and losing friends on Facebook and everything like that, and people thinking I was crazy. And I kind of just decided that, hey, I'm not Superman, I can't save the world. People refuse to see it. And it's kind of funny when that CNN news anchor was caught on camera. Does anybody remember that? Am I the only one? Like, he was on a date with some woman that had a hidden camera on her. And he was just like laughing about the whole COVID agenda thing and everything. And he said, after COVID's over with, we're going to push the big climate change agenda. And like, that was big news there for a while. People was talking about all that and everything. Like, wow, that's kind of weird that CNN is like saying that they're going to be pushing the climate change thing next. And nobody really believed it and stuff. And that's pretty much the big agenda now. Just like that dude said. And nobody cares. Weird. I kind of think of those chemtrails as like a big greenhouse type thing. They're blocking out the sun and kind of trapping in greenhouse gases here down low and raising the temperatures and stuff, And it's kind of funny that they're pushing that climate change junk. Talking about how bad the temperatures are raising and the weather's all messed up and everything. And they try to blame it on people for eating cows and driving their cars. And people are just like so evil and mean for the world. But like, the world has had climate change since its existence. The climate is always changing and temperatures go up and down and stuff. There's seasons. And they try to say it's like all man-made stuff because of our cars and stuff. But I'll give them one thing, they're right. It is man-made because they're manipulating the weather. What's this? I'm being told Bog Winterborn is out in the field right now. What's going on, Bog?
Bog Bog Winterborn here, award-winning cryptid hunter and all-around outdoorsman. I'm in Salem, Massachusetts today in search of the elusive 8-foot turkey man vulture. They said it's been seen in these parts, and it's 8 feet tall. Here he is. No, it's hard to tell, but this tree is over 50 feet tall. And here it is, the turkey man vulture of Salem. And here he comes. I am Bog Winterborn, Turkey Man. I'm an all-around outdoorsman and cryptid hunter. I have come to seek you and record evidence and documentation of your existence. Let me give you something to eat. Holy Bog Winterborn is signing off here.
Oh dear. Bog? Bog, can you hear me? This story was sent in by our friend Tim. In 1783, a boy in Bengal was born with 2 heads. The second head was upside down with a neck that pointed straight up. The second head, a fully functioning brain, and would whisper random stuff to the other brain. When the boy slept, the second head would be alert and awake with its eyes darting about. The second head also seemed to have emotions different from the boy's emotions. Pretty creepy stuff. The boy ended up dying at the age of 4 after being bitten by a cobra. As if the story wasn't creepy enough. Here was some Matrix glitches. Is Brandon Fugate.
So one day, I went to go feed the cats. I go to get their food, then I put them down, I put the food down, then they all go to eat the food. But then, as I go on the computer to do some stuff, I look over at Fluffy. He just got done. So look over at Micmo. Micmo also just got done. And Mickey, our biggest cat, also just got done. All 3 cats all got done at the same time. So that was a pretty weird thing I thought I'd talk about, since they usually don't get done at the same time. If they do get done at the same time, it's usually both Micmo and Mickey get done at the same time. Usually not all 3 of them all get done at the same time. They never all get done at the same time. And another thing that happened, just today, is we went to Pikeville, and we saw all sorts of cars there, and all the cars that we saw there, we saw all of them twice. So there was this one pickup truck, kind of storm blue colored, kind of that color, it had a rusty bumper. We went to Tractor Supply Co., it was there, and when we were going to a store called the gaming company or something, we also saw we saw the same storm blue pickup truck in the other lane. We saw the same pickup truck twice. There's also this one car, it was red. We saw it twice. There's one car that had a Texas license plate, and we saw it twice as well. There was even a car that was from Canada, and we saw that car twice, just like the Texas one. And there was also this one car, it was this big truck, white truck, that had a flatbed of hundreds of pallets on it. And we saw that one twice as well. It was backing up into the Tractor Supply parking lot, and we saw it twice somewhere else. Every car that we saw while we were at Pikeville, we saw it twice.
More crazy glitches in the Matrix. This episode of In Dark Places is brought to you in part by CryptidCon, Bigfoot, Monsters and Legends. Coming up this weekend. Come meet media, celebrities, authors, lecturers, vendors, and other cryptozoology and legend enthusiasts for an amazing weekend event. CryptidCon is a weekend-long adventure for all you crypto enthusiasts. Meet television personalities. Learn from seasoned researchers. Shop from unique vendors. Network with others in search of elusive creatures. 2 full days of mysterious mayhem, featuring the guys from Mountain Monsters, whom I have met 2 times now, and they're great guys. Love those guys. Chris Williams from Ghost Hunters will be there. Maria Mayer from Exhibition Bigfoot. Cliff Brackman from Finding Bigfoot. Seth Breedlove. Ben Hansen from UFO Witness. And I'm going to be there with my buddy Dwayne. We're not going to be speaking or anything. We're just going to be there checking out everything. But if you're in the area, hey, come and say hi. CryptiCon at Lexington, Kentucky. The Clarion Hotel and Conference Center. Call 859-233-0512 to reserve a night.
Here are some haunted houses that you can buy right now. On 31 Old Beach Road in Newport, Rhode Island, asking price $4.5 million. You can check in anytime you like, but this classic Victorian bed and breakfast is so charming, the original owner is having a hard time leaving it, and he died in 1894. The current owner says that George C. Mason, the original architect of the ornate 5,800 square foot house built in 1873, has been seen arriving home from his day at work. There have also been sightings of a lady in the home in Victorian attire descending the stairs, and of a woman with a baby in the nursery sitting in an Edwardian chair. All paranormal encounters are reported to have been positive thus far. They're relatively well publicized, and they haven't deterred guests from checking in. Bookings for the 11 suite guest rooms at the Architect's Inn remain solid. Aside from the spirits, new owners will also enjoy a turnkey property. The lovely furnishings, appliances, dishes, linens, and ghosts that have made it famous are also included in the list price. 138 East Fulton Street in Canton, Missouri. List price only $899,000. Spiritual house calls. The Priestley home is well known in Mississippi for its stately beauty and remarkable renovation, but it also comes with a curiously haunting history. It was built by Dr. James Priestley in 1852, who lived there happily with his wife until they died. Their presence can reportedly be felt on the front porch, the grand staircase, and 4 other rooms. Expanded and remodeled over the decades, the house now has 4 bedrooms, a formal dining room, music room, parlor, library, office, and sleeping porch, all in excellent condition. The owners made headlines in 2002, buckle my shoe, when they claimed that a ghostly woman had appeared, a piano had played on its own, candles had fallen from their holders, and they had detected hot spots in the room where Mrs. Priestley died. Paranormal specialists claimed their equipment was inexplicably tampered with when they came to investigate. The current owners are apparently ambivalent about living in this 5,252 square foot home, since it has been on and off the market more than 20 times since 2013, at prices ranging from $699,000 to $1.15 million. Its current price appears to be quite reasonable for those who aren't afraid of things that go bump in the night. 744 Clay Street, Port Townsend, Washington. Price, $1.5 million. It's a B&B with ghostly benefits. According to paranormal experts, people who truly love their homes sometimes like to stick around after they've shuffled off to a higher plane. That could also mean that people who really love their jobs may want to continue doing them once they've passed on. What? Where did they take this poll? Anyway, it's possible that in the case with George Starrett and his intrepid nanny, Starrett, a wealthy contractor, built the gorgeous Queen Anne Victorian mansion for his beloved wife, Anne, back in 1889. Their nanny also seems to have really been dedicated to her work. Now that the house is serving as a boutique inn, some guests have claimed that she expresses her displeasure when they break house rules. The nanny acts out by generating negative feelings, pushing cold drafts, lifting pictures off the walls, and throwing them to the floor. Visitors don't seem to mind these otherworldly encounters in what's become known as Port Townsend as the Great Dame. The elegant 11-bedroom bed and breakfast is solidly booked. It features a library, parlor, sitting room, and dome with frescoes of maidens. You know, I always like a room with frescoes of maidens. The period-appropriate furniture and decor, all included in this price, seem to be just as appealing to guests as to ghosts. And how about this property at 562 Fifth Avenue in Troy, New York? The price is $444,444. Seems reasonable. It says it has mob infestations. When you have a good ghost story, go with it. That's the mantra of Michelle Bell, the current owner of the Ensslin House. She lists this Westchester County residence on Airbnb with the line, "Don't worry, our ghosts are harmless. You probably won't see them, although some visitors swear they exist." Her claim is that the 4-bedroom home is haunted by 9 ghosts and a gangster by the name of John Legs Diamond. Her family has owned the house for 6 generations, and she identifies as an intuitive alchemist and empath. So if anyone does know, she's probably well qualified on the subject. Built in 1925, the home once housed a supper club. I'm going to go to a supper club. Junebug, do you want to go to a supper club?
Hey, let's go. Sounds fun.
Well, anyways, the home once housed a supper club where the mobster is said to have enjoyed dining. The other ghosts include members of Bell's family who have passed on. Aside from lingering spirits, the residence retains much of its original charm, including an ornate tin ceiling, Florentine doors, and hardwood floors. The place is still zoned for commercial use, and Bell believes it could be perfect for a pop-up restaurant, artisan cafe, or coffee roaster. Just keep the basement locked. That's where a lot of the paranormal stuff goes down.
I don't know if it's haunted or not, but the house from the Christmas Story is up for sale up in Cleveland. It's only $136,000. So me and Jimmy have been looking around for some synchronicity stories. We're going to do a show here in the near future about synchronicities and coincidences, which, there's no coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. I don't know if this would count as being a synchronicity or whatever, but there's this woman who, when I was a kid, like 3-4 years old, she lived next door to my aunt and uncle, and I would play with her all the time. Her name was Angie, and I would say, "That's my girlfriend," and everybody got a big kick out of it. Like, yeah, he's 3 years old, he's got a girlfriend. So, after about 1990 or so, Angie moved, and I never saw her again for like 30 years. One day she popped up in the store where I work at, and I didn't recognize her, and she recognized me, and she said, "Oh, hi, there's Junebug, and it's all the time," and, stuff like that. So it's kind of weird that she popped up out of the blue like that. On November 13th, something even weirder happened. See, my sister lives in South Carolina now, and she's miserable, and she wants to move back to West Virginia because she hates South Carolina. But she's in South Carolina for right now. On November 13th, her husband's buddy Chris, that he works with, came to their house, and he brought his new girlfriend with him. And it was Angie. The odds of that happening are like 1 in a million or something. I told my sister we should buy a lottery ticket or something, because that's kind of crazy. Why would she be there, like, of all places in the world? She popped up at my sister's house. Pretty crazy. I don't know if it's a synchronicity or whatever, but, it's a weird story. There are no accidents. I can't tell you how many times I've been listening to the radio or whatever, and I start thinking about a song, and then it pops up next on the radio, and I hear it, or like it's stuck in my head all day, and then I hear it at work or something like that. Just crazy little things. You think about people and they pop up. What are these things? Is it synchronicity? What is this? It's weird. What does it mean? This story was sent in by our friend James. Thanks, James. Time traveler claims people will mysteriously fall from the sky in 2023. It wouldn't surprise me, everything else is happening. A mysterious time traveler who claims to be from 2671 has declared that 7 people will fall from the sky in 2023 in areas where no flights were flying. It's pretty specific. There's going to be 7 people, not 6, not 8. 7 people are going to fall from the sky. Okay. Eno Alaric, a TikToker who posts videos under the username Radiant Time Traveler, has claimed that 7 people will fall from the sky in June 2023 in places where planes weren't even flying. Eno has over 26,000 followers on the platform, which he gained by posting warnings about the future. He makes the revelation in the latest video, which he garnered over 1,700 likes. In the video, he wrote that he was a time traveler from 2067. Okay. He's changed his years. Earlier he was from 2671, but now he's from 2067. And he informs that he was here to warn of 5 dates that were yet to come. He then reveals that on November 30th, 2022, the James Webb Telescope will discover a planet that mirrored Earth. He continued about a plane going missing above the Bermuda Triangle on January 1st, 2023. According to him, on March 3rd, 2023, a message which seems to be from the ocean will be received all over the world. On March 15th, 2023, a 750-foot mega tsunami will hit the California coast, mainly San Francisco. Eno has previously given warnings about twin planets with Earth, alien visitors, and portals opening to other times. As for his viewers, some of them support and believe him, whereas others don't. One of his viewers commented that if he is a time traveler, he should be able to tell them how to become rich. Another completely dismissed the idea, saying she doesn't think so. But a few of them hoped Eno's predictions would come true. So he came from all those years into the future, and he's warning us about junk like that. Okay. We shall see. So one day our friend Linda was talking about EMPs, electromagnetic pulses. Like China could hit us with an EMP at any minute and cripple all of our computers and communication and everything like that. And she mentioned this book called 1 Second After by William Forstchen. She said it was an extremely long book. I hardly ever have time to read anything now. I've got 1 million books and I'm not getting any of them read. So I found an audio book version of it on YouTube and I started listening to it, and it's pretty cool. It's a fictional story, but it could very well happen. It talks about an EMP going off over this town, and nobody's cars worked after that because they were all computerized. The book came out in 2009, and then there was a follow-up to it called 1 Year After, and then there was a follow-up to that called The Final Day. So, from what I can tell, that first one is a pretty good little series. You should check it out. And it's not all that far-fetched. I can see some moron doing that any day now, just attacking all of our computerized stuff and just crippling us. And I found this in the news from September 6th. DHS releases recommendations to protect National Public Warning System from EMPs. Today, on September 6th, the Department of Homeland Security released a report of operational approaches to protect the National Public Warning System from an electromagnetic pulse, EMP. The The report is a collaborative effort between the DHS Science and Technology Directorate, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, IPAWS, never heard of them, and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. The report summarizes recommendations that federal, state, and local agencies and private sector critical infrastructure owners and operators can employ to protect against the effects of an EMP event. Electromagnetic pulses, whether caused by an intentional EMP attack or a naturally occurring geomagnetic disturbance from severe space weather, could disrupt critical infrastructure such as the electrical grid, communications equipment, water and wastewater systems, and transportation modes, said Catherine Coulter Mitchell, the DHS senior official performing the duties of the Undersecretary for Science and Technology. What? That's the thing? Oh, yeah. This could impact millions of people over large parts of the country. It is critical to protect against the potential damage of an EMP event. The National Public Warning System ensures the President of the United States can communicate with Americans in the event of a national emergency. Yeah, he can really communicate. He's a great communicator. Oh, sorry. Let's go, Brandon. The FEMA IPAWS program equips 77 private sector radio broadcast stations with EMP-protected backup transmitters, communications equipment, and power generators that would enable the station to broadcast national emergency information to the public in the event of an EMP event. These stations represent a key public-private sector partnership and serve as the primary sources for a national emergency broadcast during a catastrophic disaster, said Antoine Johnson, FEMA IPAWS Program Director. The stations are located across the country, providing radio broadcast coverage to more than 90% of the U.S. population. As part of the broader DHS effort to ensure critical infrastructure and emergency response systems are protected against EMPs, FEMA conducted high-altitude electromagnetic pulse testing and the MPWS equipment to evaluate its operational resiliency. The testing confirmed the effectiveness of protection for NPWS stations, showing they could withstand the effects of an EMP in accordance with military specifications. Protecting critical assets from EMP is part of a larger DHS effort to assess and mitigate EMP risk in both the public and private sector, said Acting CISA Assistant Director Mona Harrington. The CISA remains committed to working with our partners to implement requirements outlined in the Executive Order on Coordinating National Resilience to Electromagnetic Pulses, which strengthens our nation's preparedness from EMP. The best practices and design principles noted in the Electromagnetic Pulse Shielding Mitigations Report can be implemented by critical infrastructure owners and operators who seek to secure their assets against EMP in a similar manner to the MPWS equipment. And those guys mentioned FEMA. What about the FEMA coffins? You familiar with that? Jesse Ventura had an episode on this on his Conspiracy Theory show, which was, oddly enough, canceled. But yeah, supposedly FEMA has like millions of big coffins that have been seen by people just all over the world, I guess. And Jesse Ventura found one down in Georgia, had like 200,000 of them, I think, like in this big empty filled space thing. They look just like coffins, they're big black plastic things. And one day when I was going to Lexington to see my dad, I passed a truck. Like, he was going the opposite direction as me. I was going toward Lexington, and he was coming back this way. But it was a big flatbed truck, and it was loaded down with those big black plastic coffin-looking things. The FEMA coffins. And I wanted to turn around and just follow that guy and see where he was going. But I had to hurry and get to Lexington. You know, it was getting late and stuff. This is a story sent in by my buddy Ron. He found this on some Facebook group. Ghost Hunters of Kentucky or something about that. I don't know what it's called now. But it says, I thought I would post a story, a true story, about an actual encounter I had with a skinwalker. You can believe it if you want. It's up to you. But this encounter has haunted me my entire life and will continue to haunt me for the rest of it. Growing up in a small town in Kentucky, there wasn't much to do. Me and my brothers mostly ran through the woods looking for something to get into. We spent most of our childhood climbing through caves and building clubhouses and tree houses. The woods around our house were pretty thick, but not much different than any other woods, except for one place on the very top of the knob in front of our house. It was quite hard to get to, and you had to climb straight up and down for about a mile. But at the top of this steep climb was a solid rock base, and one wouldn't think much of this if it wasn't that in the side of the rock base was a perfectly cut square door. There's other people that seen this place, and if they ever read this, they'll know exactly where I'm talking about. As far as I know, me or my brothers never climbed into the door. I know that my oldest brother said that he climbed about 20 feet back into a square-cut shaft. You have to understand this is in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. So me and my friends, when we were about 13, decided to climb this steep knob and visit this square door cut into a cliff. We were there for about 30 minutes and started to get bored, so we decided to try and dig around in the dirt around beside the door. I dug a rib bone with teeth carved in it, and what looked like stars and moons. I thought it was very interesting, and I was very excited, so I took it back home with me, and I showed my dad. My dad, having knowledge of Indian artifacts and Native American customs, told me to take it back to where I found it and rebury it. He wanted me to go at night in the dark, but I refused, and I told him I would go in the morning. That night, about 3 o'clock, I woke up and I looked over at my door. There was a silhouette of a shadow that looked like an Indian. It had a feather headdress, and it was standing in the door very still. I closed my eyes as tight as I could, and I prayed that when I opened my eyes, it would be gone. But it was still there, only it was kneeling down now. I closed my eyes again, and I started to pray, and when I opened my eyes, I saw it turn and walk down the hall. I fell back asleep, and I woke up sometime in the night once again, and I saw the shadow silhouette of a large woman, about the size of my grandmother. Again, it stood perfectly still, and then it kneeled down. I jumped at it as if to intimidate it. It turned and floated down the hallway with no legs. I don't remember going back to sleep, and I'll be honest, I don't know how I could sleep. But I woke up to a burning fire on my chest and in my throat. I looked up, and there was a creature sitting on my chest with long, oblong, black eyes. The skin had been removed from his jaws. All of his teeth have been filed down to be razor sharp. It had skin on his body like rotted flesh, and his teeth looked like shark's teeth. That's the one thing I'll never forget, is the teeth. It looked like a man who tried to stretch cat skin over his face. Whatever that means. It was some kind of half cat, half human, evil, rotted creature. It was choking me, and it was strangling me to death. I remember fighting for air, squeezing my neck the whole time. Its razor-sharp teeth were oozing slime down all over my face. I got my arm free, and I took a swing at it, and I remember hitting it really hard. I was 14 years old and weighed 275, and I was like a bull. This thing had me pinned and almost had me choked to death. I blacked out at some point, and I woke up in the morning. I went into the kitchen, and my mom was cooking breakfast. She said, "Where did you get that black eye?" And thought I had gotten into a fight that night. My neck was covered in bruises where I was choked, and I had a black eye. I don't remember being hit, but I do remember being choked, and I do remember taking a swing at it. The story is true. I wish it wasn't. This is something that I wish that I didn't remember, and something that I wish never happened, but it did. And I went back and I buried that bone right where I found it. I painted this picture of the doorway into the cliff, and I'll attach that into the show notes and YouTube video and stuff. It will always haunt me for the rest of my life. Someone asked me to paint the monster as I remember it, so this is him, and I'll attach that as well. I can't even look at it now, 30 years later. I painted it quick and will probably destroy it. This thing exists in a place made for it, but it will come to you if you disturb its bones. A few years ago, I found out that a tomb was found in Bradfordsville, Kentucky, only miles from where this encounter happened. I am adding this article from the early 1900s. The Adena were involved in animal mutilation practices. When the chief died, a medicine man, they sacrificed his whole family and put them in the tomb. They removed his teeth and put animal teeth, a cat, and animal bones mixed with the human ones. They would come back as beasts in the afterlife. And now here is that very article, which is also attached, and I'll attach that in the show notes and YouTube video as well. This is from some newspaper on November 21st, 1930. Many human skeletons found on farm near Bradfordsville. A discovery that may prove of value to archaeologists was the finding of peculiar human skeletons on the farm of H.B. Thornton, well-known farmer of Bradfordsville. Several days ago, Mr. Thornton, with the aid of several men, was filling in a swampy spot near the door of a barn on his farm, the dirt for which he was taking from two knolls some distance away. A plow, which was being used to loosen the dirt on the mounds, suddenly turned up a skull and other human bones. Immediately, further excavating was done, and other remains found, although only one of the mounds has been opened, and that for a distance of only 15 feet. 14 skeletons have already been removed. Dr. R.W. Wilson, Dr. H.R. Wilbur, and Dr. L.W. Campbell, who were told of the discovery, went to the scene to more closely examine the bones. They found that the skulls were of exceptional thickness and that the teeth were far above normal size. Also that the heads were flat and there was practically no forehead. Otherwise, the bones were apparently normal. 2. The manner in which the bodies were buried was of interest. Large rocks were placed loosely both under the bodies and on top of them, and each head rested on a piece of mica. Mica, it is stated, is not common to Kentucky, and therefore aroused considerable interest as to the native land of the people. Dr. Wilson has written to Dr. W.D. Funkhauser of the University of Kentucky, archaeologist of note, inviting him to inspect the tombs if he thought there was a possibility of the discovery being of value in his field. That's about all the show this week. Thanks for listening. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.